Well, in the middle of the worst recession in modern American history, yes, you cut taxes. And we know it works. Because Ronald Reagan did it, and we had 25 years of economic growth. 20 million jobs created. What's Obama's record? So the guy's running around attacking the formula for success, attacking the formula for the way out, unleashing the economy, unleashing the individual, unleashing the entrepreneur, rewarding investment, and yes, profit, risk-taking, which is how you grow an economy, which is what America's all about. Not this top-down, phony mastermind crap. Obama in New Hampshire today also said this. Cut 4, go.
But we also know that this country is built on an idea of citizenship.
Stop. Roll it back. Oh, this is a new one for him. The country's built on the idea of citizenship. He supports citizenship? Backdoor amnesty for 1.5 to 1.7 million illegal immigrants? Now he supports the idea of citizenship? Have you ever heard a bigger fraud in your life? Honest to God. Start from the top. Go, Mr. Producer.
But we also know that this country is built on an idea of citizenship. The idea that we have some obligations to each other. And that when we work together, we all do better. We've got obligations to future generations. That America's not just about what can be done for us, it's about what can be done by us together as one nation and one people.
Boy, I hope he loses because I'm so sick of his speeches, to be perfectly honest with you. Now, I want to explain this. It's on page 3 of Liberty and Tyranny. I want to explain this. One people. One people. We're one people, but not because of government. We're the American people. That means we share certain customs and traditions, certain beliefs and values. We want certain similar things for ourselves and our families. What he's describing is the civil society, not government, but he projects it onto government, an all-powerful government. And by one people, he means uniformity, conformity, where we're all equal in outcomes and outlooks. But we're not. We're individual human beings with unalienable rights. Different things motivate us. So it's a complete bastardization of what we mean by the American people as one people. What we mean as Americans by one people, we mean people who live side by side in a civil society. In the civil society, as I explained it, the individual is recognized and accepted as more than an abstract statistic or faceless member of some group. See, it's the opposite of what Obama says. He's a unique, spiritual being with a soul and a conscience. He's free to discover his own potential and pursue his own legitimate interests, tempered by a moral order that has its foundation in faith and guides his life and all human life through the prudent exercise of judgment. Do you hear me say government anywhere in here? As such, the individual in the civil society strives, albeit imperfectly, to be virtuous. That is, restrained and ethical and honorable. He rejects the relativism that blurs the line between good and bad, right and wrong, just and unjust, and means and ends. Did you hear me mention government here? In the civil society, the individual has a duty to respect the unalienable rights of others and the values, customs, and traditions tried and tested over time and passed from one generation to the next that establish society's cultural identity. He's responsible for attending to his own well-being and that of his family, and he has a duty as a citizen to contribute voluntarily to the welfare of his community through good works. This is what we mean by being an American, not being a subject to an authoritarian government. In the civil society, private property and liberty are inseparable. The individual's right to live freely and safely and pursue happiness includes the right to acquire and possess property, which represents the fruits of his own intellectual and physical labor. As your time on earth is finite, so too is your labor. The illegitimate denial or diminution of your private property enslaves you to another and denies you your liberty. And in the civil society, a rule of law which is just, known, and predictable and applied equally, albeit imperfectly, provides the governing framework for and puts restraints on the polity, thereby nurturing the civil society and serving as a check against the arbitrary use and abuse of power, Mr. Obama. You see, folks, for we, the people, the conservatives and others, the civil society has as its highest purpose the preservation and improvement of society. Now, the modern liberal believes in the supremacy of the state. He rejects the principles of the Declaration and the order of the civil society in whole or part because for the modern liberal, the individual's imperfection and personal pursuits impede the objective of the utopian state. In this, the modern liberal promotes what French historian Alexis de Tocqueville described as a soft tyranny, which becomes increasingly more oppressive, potentially leading to a hard tyranny, some form of totalitarianism. As the word liberal is, in its classical meaning, the opposite of authoritarian, it is more accurate, therefore, to characterize the modern liberal as a statist. This is on page 3 and 4 of Liberty and Tyranny. So when Obama runs around and says, we're one people, so surrender your liberty and your property to me, the mastermind, and my circle of advisors, and my army of bureaucrats, he's rejecting the American mindset, the American experience. He's rejecting our founding. He's promoting tyranny. That's what he means by one people. We have just a little bit of fun before I go to callers. No, this is not your typical talk show. We try and take it a few steps further in defining what's going on, looking down the road, cutting through the bullcrap that we get from the politicians and the media. Oh, I inherited this. Look what the man's doing. Look what he's poised to do. He's a disaster. I'm going to go to calls. Before I do it, former Michigan Governor Jennifer Granholm at the DNC convention yesterday. Woman's a crackpot. Apparently she takes a lot of shots at me on a network nobody watches called Current, Al Gore's network. Where was Al Gore, by the way? Where was the rabid poodle? But anyway, she really got into it. Let's hear some of her. Shall we? Cut 12, go.
With the auto rescue, he saved more than 1 million.
Hold on, let's round that back. We sure? Is that Jennifer Granholm or George Granholm? Or is this person transgendering? Because it sounds like a guy to me. But that's a whole other thing. Cut 12, go.
With the auto rescue, he saved more than 1 million American jobs.
All right, stop. I'll only do this one more time. He didn't save 1 million anything. A lot of analysts have broken that down. He didn't save 1 million anything. In normal bankruptcy like Delta went through and all these other major companies and international companies have gone through that have faced bankruptcy, they make it like the company would disappear and there'd be no more workers. That's not true. All right, go ahead.
But it wasn't just Michigan. Hey. It wasn't just Michigan, my friends. In Colorado, the auto rescue saved more than 9,000 jobs. In Virginia, more than 19,000 jobs. In North Carolina, 25,000 jobs. In Wisconsin, 28,000
All right, that's
jobs.
Enough. Can you believe this person was a governor? But this is good news for all you knuckleheads, lunatics, and liberal drones out there. See, one day you can amount to something. Oh, yes. One day you can be a governor or a senator, too. Or a vice president, maybe even a president. All right, folks, I want to talk to you about something. It's very, very serious. This weekend and every day, pretty much up to election, Obama's campaign is sending out enormous number of people to our college and university campuses. They're trying to register your children and grandchildren and get them to vote for Obama and the Democrat ticket. Now, Obama's a fraud, okay? He hasn't done a thing that he said he would do except fundamentally transform America. But in terms of cutting unemployment and all the rest, just a fraud. He's now telling your children and grandchildren in college that he's going to cut their tuition in half in 10 years. Well, even if he's reelected, he's not going to be here in 10 years as President of the United States. I've said, and I wrote in Liberty and Tyranny, there are tens of millions of us who love this country. And if we would just use our knowledge and our influence with our family members, it would have an enormous impact. And many of you have done exactly that. Well, now it's time for more of it. If you have a son or a daughter or a grandson or a granddaughter attending a college or a university, give them a call tonight or this weekend. Discuss this election with them. And by all means, if they're on the fence, have a really good discussion with them to bring them back to reality. If you have a son or a daughter or a grandson or granddaughter who's attending college or a university, I don't know the difference, but apparently there's some semantic difference. But you know what I mean. And you're pretty sure they're going to vote against Obama and for Romney? Well, get on the phone and talk to them and see if they have the form that's necessary in most states to fill out and send in to get an absentee ballot, because the time is passing on that. You can be in charge of your family and your friends and some of your neighbors and coworkers in getting out the vote. But there's early voting all over this country. And if your kids are residents of your state and they live in another state at a college campus, I'm telling you now, Obama's cronies are working them over to get them registered to vote for him. And it's a big push, particularly in these battleground states like Ohio, Florida, Iowa, Nevada. Oh, hell, I can't remember all of them. New Hampshire, North Carolina, Virginia, Colorado. If your son or daughter or grandson or granddaughter is a resident of one of those states, you got to make sure, if they're likely to vote for Romney, if they're likely to be persuadable, that you persuade them and you get them the form to get an absentee ballot in time. Now, what draws this to my attention is a piece in the Financial Times. Obama and Romney in sprint to the finish. And it says here in the middle of the piece, Obama started his sprint to the finish line on the defense, obviously. His trip to Iowa, the central agricultural state that launched his tilt for the Democrat nomination in 2008, will be his fifth in as many weeks. A sign that he thinks he can wrap it up. Mr. Obama's challenge in Iowa and in other states is to register and turn out young Americans who support the president by smaller margins than they did in 2008 and are less likely to vote. So he is relying, this is why he's going to community colleges one after another, college campuses one after another. Not because this is where he thinks he's going to get the greatest applause line. No, because when he goes there, they're registering them. And they have these groups on campus that are organized to register him, like the community